Hello and welcome to Crafted Bricks. In this video, I'm going to do a detailed walkthrough of this amazing custom Lego Star Wars X-Wing Starfighter. In my opinion, this is actually one of the best X-Wings that you can make in Lego form. Not only is this model minifigure scale accurate, but all of the beautiful shapes and the proportions and the details really are a great match for the Star Wars T-65 X-Wing that this model is based on. Now, the designer for this model is Jerac. Jerac has produced the design not only for this custom Lego model, but for several other custom Star Wars models. I'd highly recommend you go ahead and check out his work. I'm actually going to put a link to his Flickr page in the description of this video. Jerac is an extremely talented designer, and I highly recommend you have a look at what he's created. Now, if you actually like what you see in this video, you can purchase and download instructions for this model. They've been provided by the BrickVault team and are available from their web store. I'm going to put a link to this particular model in the description of this video so you can check that out. Now, when you actually go ahead and purchase and download the instructions, you'll notice that the BrickVault team provides you with several files. There are 3 different color variations for this model. There are 2 in a medium stone gray color scheme with a few different colored markings, and there's 1 in a white color scheme with a bright red set of markings. I've gone ahead and built that particular version, but I swapped out the bright red parts for this new dark red color scheme. And I used a few sand blue colored elements as well. I think that's a really great thing about building custom Lego models. If you actually want to customize your model further or change a few things, it's really easy to do so, and I think that's a great thing about Lego. So in addition to the instructions for the 3 color variants for this model, you'll also see there are the different parts lists that you'll need to upload into BrickLink to go ahead and purchase the parts to build the model. And there are also instructions for a custom stand for this model as well. While I have the model sitting here on this turntable seated on its landing gear in kind of like a flight mode type position, I just want to show you a couple of the features, and I'm going to rotate the model so you can see a couple of the details quite closely. I really like what Jarac's done with the nose section of this model, particularly the nose cone, and getting this slope and all the angles quite correct. Really is quite accurate to the Star Wars X-Wings that we see. Of course, there's a cockpit here which does seat a minifigure pilot. The windshield opens up and there are some control surfaces and details in the cockpit here. Right behind the cockpit, of course, we have an astromech droid. It's really good to see that there. You can use any astromech droid that you like. I'm going to rotate the model around to the front now so you get a front-on view of the model. And doesn't this look fantastic? You really get sort of that aggressive shape of the model. It's got a great nose section, the bulk of the model here, and of course these 2 or 4 total laser cannons mounted on the wings. It's quite a powerful and aggressive Star Wars starfighter. Doesn't this look superb? Now I'm just going to rotate the model to the back now so you can see some details on the rear. As you can see, there's some really nice greebling type details, and of course those 4 exhausts for the different engines. I just want to show you now how to retract the landing gear on this particular model and then lock the S-foils of the wings into that attack position that we're used to seeing for these X-Wings. So the landing gear on the underside, I'm just going to turn the model up and seat it on the back of its engines to show you this. So the landing skids are just here on the rear, and there's one on the top as well. I'm just going to fold down the landing skid so they actually just slot into the model itself. This is a particularly clever design. And then the housing also folds up, so the landing skids at the rear here are completely concealed. That all looks very clean. And the top here, this little skid just folds into the nose section as well. So I'm hoping you can see that. It's all looking very clean and is ready sort of for flight mode. Now I have a wicked brick type stand, and I modified the top here just to seat it on this X-Wing. You notice there is actually a hole there that continues all the way to the top, and there's actually a mechanism inside here to allow the wings to sort of fold open and close, and I'm going to show you that soon. But with my modified stand here, that's just going to slot into that hole on the underside here. Of course, as I mentioned earlier in this video, the instructions that BrickVault provide you also include a custom stand that you can make from Lego if you want to use this, but I like the Wicked Brick clear acrylic stands. But as you can see, already in flight mode, this looks absolutely fantastic. Now, there's a little gear and sort of 4L axle tool that you'll need. That just slots into a hole on the top here to access that geared mechanism inside. I'm just going to rotate this around, and then you can turn that, and that activates the gearing inside to then lock these wings or these S-foils into that classic attack position that we're used to seeing. Doesn't that look fantastic? I really hope this is coming across on camera and that you can see how good this looks. I'm just going to do a full rotation of the model now so you can check this out. Just looks fantastic. You know, looking at this again, I highly recommend this model. If you're experienced in building custom Lego models, I think you'll really enjoy doing this. If you're new to building custom Lego models, I'm not quite sure this is the model for you. Maybe try a few simpler models first. There are some really complex build techniques and a few things that are sort of non-standard or a non-official Lego building technique that are required, particularly in the nose section of the model. And I think actually bricklinking the parts for this particular set is quite challenging. It's not like there are a lot of parts, but there are some rarer parts and there's a lot of unique parts that are required for this model. That's probably going to suit people who have built a few custom Lego models before. I noticed that when I was ordering the parts for this particular custom Lego X-Wing Starfighter on BrickLink, that there were a couple of parts specified in the parts list that are quite expensive on BrickLink because they're rare in the color that's been specified. I've come up with a few alternate parts that just subtly change the design, and I've also come up with a few subtle cosmetic modifications. I'm just going to go through those now, and I think these will be quite useful for you to be aware of if you are planning on building this model. These changes are of course optional. If you want to go with the model as per the standard parts list and standard design, that'll be no problem at all. At steps 2 and 3 in the instructions for this model, you notice that there are some Technic gears in a medium stone grey colour. There are 3 of these needed for these 2 steps. These in medium stone grey are actually quite expensive on BrickLink. You can go with the regular tan coloured parts that are a lot cheaper and quite commonly available. The gears in this step are for the internals of the model and are not visible at all from outside of the model. After step 48 in the instructions, when you're building the engine exhausts, you've got to build 4 of these sub-assemblies. You'll notice on sub-step 4, there are these 2x2 spoked wheels. These are specified in a medium stone grey, and if you're buying those parts new, they're actually extremely expensive on BrickLink. You can completely omit those parts if you just add 2 extra 2x2 round plate parts, and I'll show you what that looks like on my model. Once again, after step 48, when you're assembling the engine exhaust parts, you're going to do 4 of these. You notice in step 1, there is a yellow Technic axle with a Technic red stop bush at the end of that axle. I recommend replacing the bright red bush with some translucent orange cone type parts. This actually just looks a lot better in the engine exhausts at the back of the model. After step 53 in the instructions, you're required to build the 4 laser cannon sub-assemblies. I recommend at step 2 and 3 in the assembly instructions, there are some 1x1 black bricks with a hole in the middle. I recommend you replace those with medium stone grey coloured parts of the same part type. That's just going to give the internals of the laser cannon a nice, clean, consistent look. You can actually see the black kind of through the outsides of the laser cannon when it is assembled. I recommend at step 5 that you replace the 11mm diameter wheel that's in medium stone grey there and replace that with 2 1x1 plates and a 1x1 round tile, and I'm going to show you what that looks like on my model. And finally, I recommend at steps 7 and 8 you can actually completely omit those parts. As I mentioned, the Technic gear shown there, medium stone grey, is quite expensive, and the 2x2 spoked wheels in medium stone grey are definitely very expensive and can be omitted from this part of the model. I recommend you replace those parts with a simple 11mm diameter wheel in medium stone grey. I'm going to wrap this video up now, but I just want to share a final few comments and thoughts on this custom Lego model with you. The first thing is it's definitely more of a display piece. It's not really a play model, although you could potentially pick it up and swoosh it around. It's not something that you want to handle too much. It's more of a model that you build to put on display and admire. I also think this model is going to suit those who've built a couple of custom Lego models before versus anyone who's new to the whole process. There are some advanced Lego building techniques that are sort of non-official techniques that are used in this particular model, but I think bricklinking the parts for this model is actually a little bit difficult. You're going to have to place multiple BrickLink orders. So if you're not familiar with buying parts on BrickLink, I think try a few other models before you take on something like this particular model. Finally, I hope that my part substitutions have been really helpful. If you are actually building this model and buying the parts, I hope the recommendations that are provided to you in this video are helpful. But I just want to reiterate, they're completely optional. They're just things that I wanted to share with you that I found or I thought would be helpful and could potentially save you a little bit of money. Okay, that's enough from me for now. Happy building and take care, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.